Hello, happy Thursday. It is the 22nd. We're going to be graphing your data from your exercise lab that you did and doing a little graphing level up activity. And then we'll end with some notes. We'll be finishing 3 pages of your notebook, page 9, 10, and 11. So pause and do the attendance task and come on back. All right. So to kind of introduce some graphing things that I expect that you already know or are able to do, kind of give you some practice with that. There's a level up folder in the Schoology folder for today, and inside of it you'll find 5 level quizzes. You start with level 1, and you have to get 5 out of the 6 points. Matching points. You'll see. But once you unlock most that, then you can move on to level 2, all the way down to level 5. It is unlimited tries, and if you need help, ask a friend. Have them help you explain things. But hopefully this will kind of clear up some things that I expect you to know about graphs before we graph our own data. So pause, go ahead and complete all 5 quizzes. They are a formative grade. And come on back when you're done. So congratulations, you are graphing masters. Here's some sample data. If for whatever reason you did not complete the lab, you can go ahead and use this data so that you can get your graph done and not be too far behind. Just looking at it, did sit-ups, and initial breathing rate ranged from 18 to 20, and then after 30 seconds it was right around 31ish, 32ish for an average, and then after a full minute all the way up to about 40, 41. So we're going to graph this, and if you were here at Park High School for physical science, then this should look familiar. This is the same 9 steps that you did in physical science. So the first step is draw and label the x-axis. That's going to be the changed variable, which for our data is we changed the length of time that we exercised. So it would be time exercised. And label that. Then you're going to draw and label the y-axis. That's what you measured, which was your breaths. And you got to use the scale. So on the level up activity, you had to identify, each step of the graph paper has to be the same in terms of how far it is. So give it a title. Again, you can do just x versus y axis or effect of blank on blank. Scaling out is probably the hardest part to do, making sure you use as much of the graph as possible, but then also having it fit all of the data. So for mine, my x-axis is pretty simple because it's just going to go from 0 time to all the way up to 60 seconds of time. So I can spread that out along the x-axis. The y-axis has to get from 0 or all the way up to about, 44 is the highest. So I might go up to 45. And maybe I'd go by 2s. It depends on how much graph paper we have. So let's look at it here. Yours might be different, but as you can see, I went all the way up to 60 on the side. So and then on the bottom I went up to 60 as well. So step 5, you scale out the y-axis, so figure out what a good scale is, and then you plot your data. And if it fits, if it makes sense, you can draw a best fit line. And then 8 and 9 are afterwards, so I'm going to come back to 8 and 9. What we can do, because we have 3 trials, we can do 3 different colors. We have blue for trial 1, green, and red. it'll be 3 dots. So a blue dot for trial 1 would be at 0 for my initial. And going back to my data, it was 18 breaths per minute. So I'd plot a point there. At 30 seconds, it was 29, so up to 29, and at 60 it was 39. And then I would draw a best fit line in blue. Do the same thing for trial 2 and trial 3, and you got yourself a graph. 8 and 9 then are going to be, I think I have an example graph here for you first. Yeah, so here's my graph. And you can kind of see that they all show the same general trend, even though the numbers were off a little bit. Okay, so 8 and 9 is writing out the relationship. So as simple as the X increases, so as exercise time increased, the breathing, what? And you write out, and you just write that out. And then look at your hypothesis and write a sentence if your hypothesis was correct. So go ahead and take your time, make your graph, and come on back when you're done. All right, the last part of today is we're talking about the next step of this is thinking, why do we breathe? So we figured out the mechanics of it with the lungs and the trachea and the alveoli. That's the how. The why is going to be a little bit more complicated, and it has to do with your cells. So all of your cells have the need for oxygen. But I want to start with what you already know about cells. So there's a little spot in your notebook, so that has a spot for you to kind of draw a cell, label any cell parts that you remember, and just kind of see what you already know. Okay, so you probably didn't draw this. This is a very fancy diagram of all the different parts. You maybe remember seeing these in life science. Some things that you maybe recognize, the nucleus here. Some people remember the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. Maybe you had a cell membrane on there. But that's about all you might have remembered. This is kind of the drawing, right? And this is what I want you to label, because this is all we're going to talk about right now. Is the blob is the cell membrane, the outside. The nucleus is in the middle. That's the brain of the cell. Little dots in there are going to be important for what we're about to talk about. Those are called the mitochondria. This says mitochondrion. It's the same as mitochondria. And then cytoplasm is all the liquid that fills it up. So, most of us is water, and most of your cell is just water. So each cell is like a water balloon filled up with cytoplasm with little stuff floating around in it. Okay. So the topic is called cellular respiration, and that makes sense. Respiration we talk about with breathing. So this is cell breathing. So some overview stuff. The overall definition is that cell respiration is how we get energy from our food. A vocab word for the day is ATP. So ATP is a molecule that our bodies, our cells use for energy. So you might use caffeine or sugar. Your actual cells use ATP. And this process takes place in your mitochondria. Again, maybe you remembered that mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. Well, they're getting power, ATP power, from our food, and that's why we breathe. So here's inputs and outputs. So what goes into your mitochondria, and then what comes out. So in goes oxygen and food, and you'll see a lot of times they'll say glucose. That's just a sugar. So we breathe in oxygen, we eat food that go into our mitochondria, and then out comes carbon dioxide. We breathe that out. We also breathe out water. If you've ever fogged up a window or a mirror, you go, breathe on it, and it gets all foggy. That's water. And then lastly, what we care about is this energy, this power. So we literally are using our oxygen to turn our food into energy. We have some waste that comes with it. So overall, respiration is the process by which a cell breaks down food into carbon dioxide, water, and energy. We can pause there, and done for today. Have a good one.